Today's video isn't technically a 5 words in 5 minutes video because actually we've got 4 words. They all relate to one root, but I only wanted to discuss these 4 because they're often confused. So we're going to talk about the meanings of them and also the differences between these words. So our root for today is solace. That comes from the Latin for alone. You'll have heard solace used as a root for solo. So you have a solo singer and they sing alone. They are a soloist. So let's talk about some other solace related words. Okay, so solitary, solitude, desolate and isolated. Those are the 4 words we're going to be talking about today. First up, let's look at solitary and solitude. They begin with the same first 5 letters, so you know they're going to be confusing and similar in some way. Let's talk about the differences. So solitary, we can see a solitary goat standing on top of the mountains here. He is solitary. Solitary is used as an adjective there. It is an adjective and it describes someone that is alone. Now, solitude is actually a noun. So it is to do with the state of being something, which is a tricky way of saying it, but it means that he is that thing. So this man is in solitude. He is in the position of being on his own. And you can see there, he is reading a book. He looks engrossed in his book. And that's because when people are in solitude, it's usually because they want to be. So they want to be in the position, in the state of being alone. Perhaps they just want some peace and quiet, some privacy, which is a synonym. So for solitude, think peace and quiet, being in a peaceful place. Solitary describes someone or something that is alone. Let's look at the definitions. So for solitary, we actually have 3 definitions. It's complicated. So solitary, of a person or animal, they are being, travelling or living alone. You can go on a solitary quest, perhaps, so where you travel alone. That animal was being alone. Remember, if you want to write down these definitions, you can just pause this video, write it down, then press play when you're ready to keep going. So that's one meaning of solitary. You could also say that you can use it to describe a place. So a place that is isolated or far away. So a solitary house, perhaps, or a solitary mountain, perhaps, if there aren't any other mountains nearby. So just describing something that's far away from everything else, it's alone. And then finally, if you describe a person as solitary, that is someone that enjoys being alone. So a solitary person will seek solitude. So they will look for opportunities to be on their own, because they like being on their own. So remember, a solitary person looks for solitude. So the definition, describing someone that enjoys being alone, solitary. Okay, now our definition for solitude. Let us go on. Oopsie, I went too far. Okay, so being alone, especially because you want to be. So solitude is being alone rather than describing someone that is alone. That's being alone, especially because you want to be. So you might seek solitude, you can say someone enjoys solitude, or they are in solitude. Okay, let's look at the next words. Desolate and isolated. Now these pictures kind of look broadly similar, like there's not much there, but there is an important difference. So the bottom picture, isolated, has a house in it. So that house is isolated from everything else. So it is far away, it is alone and not near anything else. So we describe it as isolated. You might want to isolate yourself sometimes. So if you are sick of being around people, you want some solitude, you may decide to isolate yourself by taking yourself into a room or something so that you are far away from people and things. Okay, desolate is a little different to isolated because desolate means it's empty. So there isn't even a house there, it isn't one solitary house, it's just an empty, depressingly empty space. And you can also feel desolate. So imagine having that, like feeling the way that that picture does. So you feel desolate, you feel empty and sad and lonely. By the way, just before I go into the definitions, these pictures and words are from the Wordier illustrated flashcards, which have example sentences, definitions, collocations, etymology, and synonyms for a whole set of challenging words. So if you like having these pictures here, then you might want to have a look at the Wordier illustrated flashcards. Okay, so the definitions for desolate and isolated. Desolate. I went too far again. There we go. So miserably and frighteningly empty. A desolate landscape. A desolate, maybe even a village or something. If there was no one in the village anymore, then you could describe it as desolate, just empty homes. So that would be frighteningly empty. Okay, and then to feel desolate, you are feeling lonely and unhappy. Feeling very lonely and unhappy if you are feeling desolate. Okay, get that down on paper and let's look at isolated. So that is, I keep going wild with my buttons today. Isolated, far away from places, buildings or people. So far away from places, buildings or people. That house was isolated from everything else. So we usually say isolated from when we use it in a sentence. Okay, so that's the difference between isolated and desolate. Desolate is empty. Isolated is there is something there, but it's far away from everything else. And I hope that clarifies some things. There are a few other solace words that we use in the English language. If you can think of any, comment on this video and let me know and I will reply to those. And if you've learned something in this video, can you please remember to press like and also subscribe so we know that this is content that you enjoy. Okay, that's it from me. If you like the Wordier approach with pictures, then you may want to look at the flashcards, which you can see on the screen here, and our illustrated workbook. We have a game, and all of that is available on wordier.online. Okay, thanks for joining me. I hope you learned a lot. See you next time.